my God. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Leap Show. I'm Ilana Golan, CEO of Leap Academy. It helps driven professionals leap their careers, take them to the next level. And in the Leap Show, we're actually focusing on bringing serious experts that around the globe that really share their inspiring stories to really understand, with concrete tips and really inspiring stories, how they took themselves to a whole different level. And today I have an incredible story with Glenda here, who is already an amazing executive, done a lot of different roles. I think you tick all the boxes, right? And you just wanted more. And I want to share your story, Glenda. Welcome.
Thank you, Alana. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
So good. So again, you kind of ticked all the boxes possible in an organization almost, right? So tell me a little more.
Yeah, well, absolutely. So I have been with the organization I'm with for 26 years, which is like a long time in today's world. But I have held 10 different roles, 3 different business lines, 2 countries, a lot of different experiences, and really have had a lot of success. But I came to a point here in the last few years where we've had multiple acquisitions, multiple restructures in a very short period of time. And my trajectory for what I thought was next was not quite what I thought. And I found myself, quite frankly, stuck on, well, what is really next? How can I contribute at the level I want to contribute? How can I become who I want to become? And so I was going through this process, and I was saying to my husband, I'm like, I just need to find something that's intentional. And it's been so long since I've looked that I needed to find something that walked me through a process. And it was almost like my devices were listening to me, because up popped this little opportunity for the Leap Academy and to explore, like, are you feeling stuck? And I was like, yep. And so I listened to you talk to me about what could be possible, what kind of impact could I have? And I needed to learn more. And so I signed up for the interview. And what was interesting as I walked into that interview, I was like, I wonder what this is really all about. I am going to make sure that whoever I speak with, I'm interviewing them. I'm going to make sure that I understand, and that and so I went into it with this mindset. And what was really interesting is halfway through the interview, I realized they were interviewing me just as hard, and that I needed to qualify for this. And so I was like, oh, and then it made me want it even more, because I realized it wasn't just something that was for everybody. Mm-hmm. And so that was really, and then I took that first leap into the program. And it was, what was really fun was just, I haven't filled my own cup in a long time. Mm. I hadn't taken the time to surround myself with different perspectives, with people who had some of the same challenges, but from very different industries, very different walks of life. And it was, and at that time was life-changing. How my husband saw me after the first few weeks was, he just like, gosh, you have an energy. You are like he could see me focusing just more intently. So when I think about my first step into the foundations course, part of what really made such an impact was it gave me the process I was looking for. It step by step, and it kept expanding my thinking. And I was resistant to some of the, I felt like I should know. And that was not the case at all. I didn't know. And I had to lean in to the lessons a couple of times. There were a few that I had to retake, because I still remember seeing one of the leapers in one of the conversations, and the clarity he had with what was going to happen next and how he was going to do things. And at that point, I was probably in week 3, and I was like, I want that. What did he do differently than what I was doing? And that's part of what he said to me too, was you have to lean in and not think you know. And that really was what unlocked it, where I listened differently and didn't assume that I already had a path, that I already knew what my next step was. I had to let go of knowing.
And I love that. Oh my God, Glenda, it means so much to me. And the beautiful thing is that you, by definition, you're incredible, driven. You don't want to settle. You're that type of leader. And the beautiful thing is that's who we want to surround yourself. But the beautiful thing is also, by definition, if you're driven, suddenly you're going to be, out of your comfort zone, because you've been in comfort zone. You are successful. You've been incredible, right? So now it's like, but what else is available? What's even on the menu?
Mm-hmm. So that was really a big part of my journey. Was I really believed that the next step was a bigger, broader executive role.
Right.
And that was where I was like, the traditional path, that's the next step.
Right.
But I had to go back and lean in again, because I was making little starts, little stops, little starts, little stops. Because what I really have discovered as I went into beyond the foundations course and joined the Millionaires Club, because I needed to exercise that muscle a little bit more. And what was just so wonderful as I took that next leap into into those conversations was it wasn't a traditional path for me. And so now I'm on a non-traditional path and building what a speaking business would be, what consulting, advising, building all of those things and starting that path.
Incredible, incredible. And the beautiful thing, Glenda, and I love to hear that transformation from you, because one of the biggest thing is that we hear, we have these blinders on because that's how we lived. And as a driven high achiever, you always assumed what the next path is, because we're very intentional in general. But then suddenly, just the different possibilities, everything changed. But nobody tells you how to play at the different, level. And I love that you just jumped all in, because the beautiful thing is, yes, you have a gift. Like, you can help incredible companies. You love teams. You've done incredible things for your teams, so it's like, there's no reason not to. So the only question is, how far do I want to go, and where do I want to go?
That's exactly where I'm at right now, is asking those questions and realizing that I wasn't thinking big enough. And I have tackled some major projects, major problems, helped our organization solve a lot of different things. But what was really, I guess, that one step for me was really understanding that, what do I want to become? And I haven't asked myself that in a long time, because there comes a certain point in your career and in your experience when you've done so many different things that you stop asking all those questions that you asked when you were younger, because you were just a clean slate.
Right.
With not all of the experiences. And I had to take myself back there through kind of that journey of, and I actually retook some of the courses again to make sure of, like, how do I find my zone of genius again? Like, let's re-solidify, what are my must-haves? Why do I need, what do I need fulfilled? Not why, what do I need to fulfill inside myself? And I'm a very purpose-driven person. So I'm here for a purpose. And if I don't contribute at that level, I will live with regret. And I've never wanted to live with regret. that has been a big part of, I think, the achievements I've had, is I didn't want to look back and say I wish I would have.
Amazing. Amazing, amazing. And regret is such a big thing because that's the only thing that you can't change, right? It's like you can change it now. You can't change it in 10, 20 years, right? You don't want to get there. And the beautiful thing was you, Glenda, again, is that intention and intention, because it is a muscle. And we touched, a little bit of patience. We're going to talk a little bit about it, right? It's like, driven people never have patience. We always, by definition, we want everything done tomorrow. And if it can be yesterday, even better, right? But some of these things are big changes. Like they need to build a different muscle of leadership, a different muscle of entrepreneurship, a different muscle of charging your value, of what you can, like it's a different muscle altogether. What made you decide to lean in to say, you know what? And again, we're very selective with Millionaires Club. So as much as we're selective with Leap, we're even more selective because not everybody needs it and not everybody's relevant. But, we kind of, we talked to you because we saw that there's a huge, huge, huge potential. And we saw that if you are stopping right now, you are at the compromise mode. And if you're going to continue, oh my God, how much more is available, right? So that's kind of, but tell me what went through your head. Why did you decide that you're saying, I'm going to lean in and to create a different tomorrow? What was it?
There were 3 things. The first was we've talked about that intentionality. And when you're part of this group, the intentional steps and the encouragement that you get, and it would have been so easy for me to say, oh, I learned what I needed to know and I'm moving on. But I felt like I was missing something. And one of those other pieces was, quite frankly, the conversation you had where you pointed out a few things that you said reflected my journey, reflected a little bit of your journey, and some of the struggles that you had as you were developing and kind of building that next leap. And that really mattered to me. Knowing that I was leaning in to someone who's already been there, done it. And I look at where you're at now and I'm like, wait a minute. I want to be a part of that because who you surround yourself really like can be a springboard, or you could be
suck you down.
Right. So part of it was that springboard. I had a good friend who I had shared that I was considering this. And for the third reason was I knew I wanted to do more, become more. And she said, oh, Glenda, you will. But if you don't take this step, it's going to be slower and it's going to be harder. And you're only, and how did she put it? She said, and you're only penalizing yourself and all the people that you have the power to impact. And I sat there and I went, you see that in me? And she was like, why do you think they invited you? And that was that moment where I realized if I would always regret if I didn't.
That is so, so, so strong. So touching, Glenda. Absolutely incredible. And I want to thank you for it because that's not easy. And there's a saying that says, the people that continue when most people stop, they're the ones that will live the life that most people will only dream of. And it is such a strong but true sentence, right? because most people will always, by definition, quit or settle, right? And that's why it's hard. We try to handpick the people that can go a lot more. It's not easy, but when you see it in someone, it's really about advocating and saying, you know what, this is not your time to stop. Right. And I just love it. But tell me again, this journey is not, kind of taking yourself, and creating more for yourself, etc. It's a hard journey. There's a lot of doubt and fear. And no matter how great you are, it's going to be part of that journey. Right. So how are you coping with that?
Well, I leverage Sue's mindset sessions frequently. And actually there's a few things that I have started to do daily. One is I have a little conversation with myself every morning about what the day will bring for me. And I put it in a very positive framework of what are the steps I'm going to take. And I visualize it. That visualization is something that somewhere along the line I stopped doing. And it wasn't until I kind of took this leap into the program and walking through those mindset exercises that I've re-engaged that visualization, and things start to become more clear when you start seeing it as if it happens, because your brain already believes it. So I do a lot of visualization. The other thing that I do is I'm very cognizant of my language. Both what I actually say out loud and catching myself and being intentional about listening to what is the language I'm using when I'm looking at an opportunity or I'm starting to work on a segment of building my business. The language I use really shapes the progress I make at that point in time.
It's so strong, and not a lot of people know it. And the interesting thing is, as and I talk a lot about it, right? Like, as somebody who was in corporate and Air Force, and I didn't believe in mindset. Like, I didn't believe in language. I just said, this is all BS. But the truth is, that's what made my journey so much harder. Right. And I'm a huge believer in visualization, huge believer in setting those intentions, because if everything is vague, guess what? If you don't know where you're heading, you're not going to get there. Hello. So I just love that you shared that. Maybe share a little bit, like, what would be one thing that if somebody told you a few months ago, a year ago, 10 years ago, whatever, like, what would be one tip that you wish, a piece of information that somebody would have shared with you?
The one thing that has made the biggest difference for me in this whole program is the action. So when the first time I heard you say it, where it's not about perfect, done is better than perfect, and it's about taking those actions, those imperfect steps. If I could have really embraced getting away from that perfection, and if someone would have shared that with me a long time ago, I think I would be in a different spot today. I'd be living the life that I'm currently building, but I would have been living it sooner.
I love it. I love it. And it's true. I think that also made a big shift on a lot of people that I see. So I appreciate it. And maybe another question for you, Glenda, because I'm just curious about it. Is there a story or something that usually people don't know about you that you think made you who you are today? And I know I'm tricking you because I didn't prepare you for this question, but I'm curious because you're super driven. You have the biggest heart. You shine such a great light on everybody around you. Like, I'd love to know if there's something that you feel like shaped you to who you are right now.
So there's two things. One, when I was growing up, um, my parents were very intentional about that we would be making our own decisions. So of course, when you're younger, it's the, hi, do you want to vacuum or do you want to dust? Like they gave you the options, like you couldn't go wrong, right? Here's the two good options. You get to pick one. um, and then I will never forget, I left for college and I had a major, major decision and it was a big deal. And so what do? You call home, right? And my dad was on one line, my mom was on the other line, and I explained the situation and I said, what should I do? And I will never forget my dad said, well, that's not my decision anymore. And I was like, what? I was, um, what do you mean? And my mom chimes in, we raised you to make decisions. And dad said, we don't have to live with the consequences. You do. And that was one of those defining moments that I knew that every decision that I made from that point forward mattered. That if I made a decision that wasn't like, ooh, that's going, I needed to course correct. But once again, I was accountable and responsible for making that decision and course correcting. Only me. I'm the only one at that point that needs to deal with the consequences. So that was a life-changing moment. Now, fast forward, and I have a 14-year-old daughter. She happens to have, was diagnosed in the 4th grade with dyslexia and dysgraphia, so she has a learning disability. Nothing has been easy for her. And it would be real easy to blame the disability. But that's not how we ever talked, or how I talked about it with her. It was, you learn differently. You know, it wasn't about smart, not smart at all. It was, you learn differently. You see things differently. You have to approach things differently. And the conversation we have often is, we do hard things.
I love that.
And so that has been things that came easy to me at that point in my, you know, when I was growing up and I was learning. It hasn't been easy for her. And now, come full circle, it'll get me emotional. But she goes, Mom, you're doing hard things.
Oh.
And so it made me realize that all of those lessons that I was teaching her about, you do hard things and you achieve more, you become more. That's what she's watching me right now doing hard things so I can become more and do more for our family.
And look at that role model that you're becoming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's incredible. Oh, that's such a beautiful story. And by the way, Richard Branson is known for people, you know, from saying that, you know, a dyslexic mind is you, like you said, you learn things differently, but you also can do things differently.
Right.
So what, you know, the stars and the limit, the sky's the limit, literally, if you think about it with him. So, hey, who knows? That's amazing, Glenda.
Thank you.
So such an inspiring story. Man, I love you.
I feel the same.
Oh, you're amazing. So maybe last famous words, like, you know, if you just, you know, for people who are seeing this, some of them are leapers, some of them are not, like, what would you say?
I would say you're going to feel the fear. You are going to feel the doubts. You're going to ask the questions. Do it anyway. It's because I just took the action and so many more doors are opening. And it didn't mean that I didn't have fears, that I didn't have doubts, that that I was, that you don't question yourself or what you're doing. Do it anyway and lean in, because it's one of those actions that momentum can't be stopped, but it only starts with action. And then the momentum builds, and it's going to be a ride that you don't want to miss. That's what I would say.
I agree, Glenda, because we have one life to live. Why live in compromise? Let's create an
Exactly.
incredible life, not an okay life. Okay life is
Mhm.
fun, but can we create an incredible life? And you're creating an incredible life where your daughter sees this incredible mom chasing her dreams. Like, how inspiring is that?
Mhm. And it keeps me going every single day.
Oh my God, that will keep me going every single day because I'm surrounded by people, incredible humans like you guys that, again, for me, it's the ripple effect that you guys are going to create, right? Because what you are going to create in the world, whether it's through better teams or better companies or, whatever, and inspiring people, for me, I feel that's a tiny, tiny, tiny small piece of it. And we're making the world a better place. So that is inspiring to me.
Thank you, Alana.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate you so much.
You are incredible. You're such a role model. Thank you for coming. You're amazing, amazing, amazing.
Thank you.